an independent analysis of European defense capabilities and strategic policy.
The recent convergence of diplomatic ambition and fiscal reality regarding the Global Combat Air Program has generated a shockwave through Rome that is difficult to overstate. While the diplomatic optics of the trilateral partnership between Italy, Japan, and the United Kingdom suggest a unified front of equal partners, the emergence of new budgetary projections reveals a far more precarious internal landscape for the Italian defense apparatus. The revelation that the development phase alone could demand upwards of 18.6 billion euros from the Italian treasury fundamentally alters the strategic calculus of the nation. It transforms what was once viewed as an industrial opportunity into a potential fiscal black hole, one that threatens to warp the entire structure of the Italian armed forces for the next 2 decades. This figure of nearly 19 billion euros represents a staggering escalation from previous estimates, which had positioned the Italian contribution in the realm of 6 billion euros over a comparable period. To truly contextualize this financial precipice, one must consider the recent approval by the European Commission of the 14.9 billion euro loan under the SAFE program. While this influx of European funds provides a critical lifeline for energy security and disaster relief, the juxtaposition is stark. Italy is effectively securing a loan to stabilize its domestic economy that is smaller than the projected cost of a single defense program. This raises uncomfortable questions about the sustainability of such an investment, especially in a country where the total annual procurement budget has historically struggled to accommodate simultaneous modernization efforts across the Army, Navy, and Air Force. The driving force behind this cost explosion is the inherent nature of the Global Combat Air Program itself. It is a misnomer to classify this simply as a fighter jet project. In practice, it is a system of systems, comprising a 6th-generation manned platform, a constellation of loyal wingman drones, advanced directed energy weapons, and a combat cloud architecture capable of processing terabytes of data in real time. The technological complexity required to integrate these disparate elements into a cohesive operational capability drives costs exponentially rather than linearly. For Italy, a nation with a smaller defense budget than either the United Kingdom or Japan, the requirement to match the investment pace of its partners creates an asymmetric burden. Rome faces a dilemma where maintaining its desired 33% stake in the program may require disproportionate sacrifices elsewhere in its defense portfolio. This financial pressure inevitably leads to friction within the Italian defense industry, specifically regarding the role of Leonardo. The industrial work-share is the primary mechanism through which Italy justifies such massive expenditures to its taxpayers under the banner of technological sovereignty and job creation. However, the geopolitical architecture of the program places Leonardo in a complex position, with the United Kingdom leveraging Rolls-Royce for propulsion and BAE Systems for the airframe, and Japan mobilizing Mitsubishi Heavy Industries for advanced materials and composite structures. Italy is fighting a fierce rearguard action to secure dominance in the avionics and sensors domain. The electronics suite, or Izanki, represents the highest value-added component of modern aerial warfare, acting as the brain of the system. If the escalating costs force Rome to dilute its financial contribution, the industrial consequences would be immediate and severe. Italy risks being demoted from a lead systems integrator to a glorified subcontractor, supplying hardware components rather than shaping the software architecture that defines sixth-generation warfare. Furthermore, the prioritization of the Global Combat Air Program creates a zero-sum game for the Italian military branches. The Italian army is currently facing its own existential crisis regarding its heavy armor capabilities. The conflict in Ukraine has brutally demonstrated the obsolescence of the C-1 Ariete main battle tank and the urgent need for a robust mechanized force. The General Staff has rightfully identified the procurement of Leopard 2A8 tanks and the potential acquisition of the KF-51 Panther as critical priorities to meet NATO commitments on the eastern flank. However, capital procurement budgets are finite. If the Air Force absorbs an average of over 1 billion euros annually for a single development program, the Army's modernization plans face the risk of severe delays or volume reductions. This suggests a dangerous strategic trade-off, where Italy might possess a world-class air superiority capability in 2035, but find itself fielding a hollowed-out land force in the interim dangerous decade. The naval dimension offers no respite from these difficult choices. The Marina Militare has outlined ambitious plans for new destroyers and the ongoing integration of the Trieste landing helicopter dock, which essentially functions as a light aircraft carrier. The introduction of the F-35B has already strained the naval aviation budget, adding the burden of a sixth-generation program that is largely land-based creates a doctrinal disconnect. While the Global Combat Air Program ostensibly replaces the Eurofighter Typhoon, its strategic utility for a Mediterranean maritime power is different from that of an island nation, like Japan or the United Kingdom. Italy must balance the projection of power across the wider Mediterranean against the need for continental air defense. And the budgetary dominance of a single program threatens to rigidify this posture, leaving little room for adaptation as maritime threats evolve. Externally, the alliance dynamics are further complicated by the divergent strategic cultures of the partners. The solution to the funding gap favored by Rome and London has been the potential inclusion of Saudi Arabia as a fourth partner, a move that would inject persistent capital and spread the development costs. However, this proposal encounters stiff resistance from Tokyo, where pacifist constitutional constraints and strict export control laws make the inclusion of a Middle Eastern monarchy politically toxic. This diplomatic impasse is not merely administrative, it strikes at the heart of the program's viability. Without external capital, Italy is left holding a bill it cannot easily pay. Yet it cannot force Japan's hand without risking the dissolution of the trilateral structure. In operational terms, the insistence on a sovereign sixth-generation capability reflects a fear of irrelevance within the NATO command structure. Relying solely on American platforms like the F-35 creates a dependency that limits operational independence and industrial know-how. Yet the pursuit of autonomy through the Global Combat Air Program may paradoxically weaken Italy's overall defense posture by starving other sectors of necessary funds. The arrival of the SAMPT, New Generation Air Defense Systems, this week highlights this tension. Italy has capable indigenous technologies that need scaling. But scaling requires consistent funding that is now being siphoned toward the Tempest ambition. Ultimately, the decision to proceed with the Global Combat Air Program at this escalated price point represents a gamble on the future of the Italian state. It is a bet that the industrial returns in high-tech manufacturing will outweigh the opportunity costs paid by the conventional land and sea forces. It assumes that the geopolitical environment of the 2030s will prioritize air dominance over other domains, and that the Italian economy can sustain a level of defense spending that historically has proven elusive. Rome is effectively mortgaging the present readiness of its army to purchase a seat at the table of future aerospace superpowers. Whether this is a visionary investment in technological sovereignty or a strategic error that leaves the country unbalanced and overextended, remains the defining question of Italian defense policy for the coming generation.